What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Draft Hub. Today, we're going to be taking a look at my 2026 seven round Philadelphia Eagles mock draft 2.0. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles are a team that, kind of, after their dominant Super Bowl win over the Kansas City Chiefs, definitely showed some cracks of some serious regression. And after free agency, where, guys like N'Kobe Dean, Reed Blankenship, these guys are gone. The offensive line is getting older. How many more years of Lane Johnson do we truly have at this point? And the interior of the offensive line definitely can use a little bit of an upgrade as well. You know, Question marks about Jalen Hurts. Does AJ Brown still get traded? There's a lot of question marks on this Philadelphia team. So we're going to try and answer a lot of those questions here in this mock draft 2.0. Now, if I do remember, Philadelphia Eagles fans actually did like my first mock draft quite a bit. So this one's a little bit tricky. I'm not going to lie. I'm not really sure exactly which direction the Eagles will go. I feel like they're usually sort of kind of unpredictable, but I kind of have some good ideas of what Howie Roseman might be looking for in this draft. So we know that they don't particularly value the safety position very, very highly, and that's evident after trading C.J. Gardner-Johnson a couple of years ago, letting Reed Blankenship walk, which seems like signed for a very reasonable contract for the Houston Texans. So it does seem like he definitely could have re-signed for the Eagles. So we're sitting here at number 3, and man, there are some absolutely excellent options here for the Philadelphia Eagles. So if you were to ask me during the Eagles mock draft 1.0, I would probably say yes, Avion Terrell is probably going to be my pick here. But after signing Tariq Woolen to essentially what is a 1 year, $15 million prove it deal, with the obvious opportunity for a long term extension looming, as Tariq Woolen's still only 27 years old, still one of the fastest corners in the NFL, and actually a really, really solid overall run defending corner as well. I'm going to pass on Avion Terrell. Like I mentioned before, I don't think that the Eagles truly value the safety position really all that highly. Omar Cooper Jr. here is very, very tempting. But I will say, especially with AJ Brown still on the roster, with the addition of Marquise Hollywood Brown, and you have Devonta Smith, that's a very, very formidable, wide receiver trio. And we kind of see that Jalen Hurts doesn't really target the wide receiver 3 that often. So it's really just kind of a 2 wide receiver offense, to be quite honest with you. But there is depth to be had behind those wide receivers, but we're not going to take a look at that right now. The choice here for me, honestly, is going to be between 3 players. It's going to be between Blake Miller, Caden Proctor, and Maxi Ihnator. I like Blake Miller a lot, and I like Maxi Ihnator a lot. These are both guys that have significant starting experience under their belt. They are both, in my opinion, probably 2 of the safer options at number 23 overall, especially Blake Miller, over 4,000 career snaps at in college. One of the very rare true freshmen on the offensive line. Career for Clemson. He's a very, very strong player. Maxi Ihnator is really one of the only players that stopped David Bailey this past year for Texas Tech. He's another player that honestly only started playing football in the 2021 season, so he has plenty of growth under his belt as well. So that's also super tempting. But I think I'm going to go with Caden Proctor here at number 23. I think he's really a lot of what the Philadelphia Eagles and Howie Roseman look for in an offensive line. He's huge, 6'7", 362 pounds. He's young. I don't even think he's 21 years old yet. He's not even 21 years old at the time of recording this video, which is insane to me. So first off, what are they feeding these kids? 6'7", 366 pounds at 20 years old. That's insane. But he has so much room to grow. He's very versatile as well. He's got really excellent athleticism for his size. He's got great lateral agility as well. Good agility, good strength. Obviously, the anchor is insane. Good overall athleticism. So the thing with me is he offers you some true positional value because he's a player that, as you're developing him to kind of take over that right or maybe even left tackle spot someday, he is someone that has some, excellent appeal as a guard at the NFL level in his first year. So that's something that I'm looking for as well. Caden Proctor is a player that, kind of reminds me a little bit of Mekhi Becton for the Eagles in the sense of, you have an absolutely massive interior offensive lineman, but it just works. Mekhi Becton was an integral part of that Super Bowl winning Eagles team. So Proctor is going to be my pick here at number 23. I do think that Howie Roseman, is willing to invest future wise his first round pick in the offensive line. So that's what we're going to do here. There's just a lot. Caden Proctor can just do a lot for this Philadelphia Eagles team, in the now and in the future. So that's the way that I'm going to go there. So really, this is kind of where I get stumped for the most part afterwards. Well, Malachi Lawrence is on the board, and he's not usually on the board. So this is my thought process here. I love Eli Stowers. Don't get me wrong. I think this is a little bit of an unwarranted pick. I always see mock drafters like myself take Eli Stowers at number 54. I don't think he's a tight end that the Philadelphia Eagles really, really would be interested in. He's really just a big slot at this point, and I don't think he really fits what the Eagles are trying to do. So he's kind of off for me at this point. There's a couple guys I like here. I like Chris Brazzell the second a lot here in this spot as well. This is a player that I truly do think is going to be better than the pedigree because, Tennessee wide receivers, these last few draft classes, you think Dante Thornton Jr. last year, you think of Jalen Hyatt a few years ago. These are guys that were massive producers that just didn't translate to the NFL up until this point. But Brazzell is different to me. He's intriguing as well, 6'5", 200 pounds. Skylar Bell is also quite interesting. And Bryce Lance. I'm kind of hoping that I could target Bryce Lance at number 68. I think that would be an excellent pick at that point. So what we're going to do here is I think that we're going to go take Malachi Lawrence. I think that even with the additions of, they added Joe Tryon-Shoyinka as well to the the pass rush room. I think Lawrence is a player. They added someone else too. Off the top of my head, I don't remember who they added, but I know that they did add someone else through free agency. But Malachi Lawrence is a player that I really do think would be an excellent addition to this Philadelphia Eagles team. Now, the first thing that you're going to look at is the run defense. So the first thing I urge you to take into consideration is that as the season went on, Malachi Lawrence became a much, much better run defender, set the edge very, very well. And also, these numbers are very misleading. He was actually quite solid against the run throughout the duration of the season, but in the latter half, he was actually quite good. He's an excellent pass rusher. 19.2 pass rush win rate is exceptional. I think he had like a true pass rush win rate of like 28.6%, which was tops or second tops in the FBS to David Bailey. I think he'd be an excellent addition. We're going to continue to address the trenches where there's a lot of bodies in the edge rushing room for the Philadelphia Eagles. I do feel like Malachi Lawrence is someone that can stand out not only in the now but in the long term as well. And that's what I'm playing. There's a lot of 1-year contracts in that edge room. You think Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt are probably going to be your starters on the outside, and we all know that the Philadelphia Eagles love to rotate those edge rushers in. So Malachi Lawrence is going to be my pick here at number 54. And 68, I'm probably really looking to target a weapon if there is a good enough one on the board. At this point, I like Antonio Williams a lot in this spot, to be quite honest with you. I do think that Bryce Lance did go off the board here. That's a solid landing spot for him as well. Antonio Williams is a really, really excellent option here at this point. I do love Davison Igbinosun at this spot too. I do think the Eagles definitely need to strengthen the cornerback room. I know it's not a ridiculous need right now, especially after adding Tariq Woolen. Your two boundary corners are going to be Riq Woolen and Quinyon Mitchell, and then Cooper DeJean is going to be, obviously your starting nickel at this point. A lot of different ways you can go. I love Grayson Halton here as well. That's another player that I think could add some real pass rushing juice in rotation to Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. I probably will hold off on that. Elijah Surratt is interesting as well. So is Zachariah Branch. I like Max Clare in this spot as well. I do think a long-term solution to the tight end position is necessary. Sam Roush is actually quite interesting in this spot as well. These numbers are going to be gross, but make no mistake about it, Roush is actually a very, very sound run defender. He is a supreme athlete as well for the size, 6'5", 260 pounds. He's just kind of a do-it-all guy. So that's quite interesting as well. Jack Endries is someone that I think could be really interesting as well. It's kind of like a big slot, but he could also play inline as well. Claire is just rock solid all the way around. He feels like a Philadelphia Eagle, but we're gonna hold off on this for now. I don't think the tight end at this spot with these guys on the board, Antonio Williams just makes a lot of sense to me. Just an excellent overall player. This is someone that I really truly feel like can be your slot receiver, your wide receiver three, of the future long term. And at the very least, if they do wind up trading AJ Brown, that gives you just another, excellent weapon. He never reached his true full potential at Clemson, I feel like over these last few years. I feel like he could have been. This is really more of the Antonio Williams that I wanted to see. But, an excellent option as well, primarily a slot receiver with those 49 catches, 17 screen catches as well. He's a playmaker. You get the ball in his hands. Excellent route runner, really, really strong, sharp cuts, very precise and pristine in his cuts as well. Not even 22 years old yet as well. This is a player that I think I'm going to add. I know that some people might not want this right away, but I think if the talent is on the board, you just kind of got to go out and get it. And I think right now Antonio Williams, despite some of these other players on the board, I think Williams is actually the way to go here. So at 68, we are going to get a future dog at the wide receiver position for us. At 98, we're probably going to look to add a secondary piece. I would probably say is probably in the cards, depending on who's on the board. I like Genesis Smith quite a bit at this spot. This is interesting. All right, so let's take a look at the safeties that are on the board. I do think Marcus Epps is slotted to be your starting strong safety for the Philadelphia Eagles this year. I'm not in love with that. I don't hate it either, though. Genesis Smith, just to me, I feel like is way, just he's not a good enough tackler to be that box safety that we're looking for, despite the fact that he's extremely well versed in coverage as well. And he's so young and he's so talented. But yeah, we're not really looking for something like that. I'm looking for something with, I'm looking for someone with better, tackling ability and someone that I think could start relatively right away. There's a player that I have in mind that we might look to start a little bit later on. Same thing with Bud Clark. It's just the overall, I feel like the tackling and the overall frame just isn't there. Clark is obviously a little bit on the smaller side as well. I think VJ Payne could actually be quite interesting. I don't know. I'm a little bit higher on VJ Payne than the consensus. I know a lot of people like to take him a little bit later in these drafts, but after the combine performance that he had, I'd probably look to see VJ Payne probably being around this 153 range for the most part. So for now, we'll hold off on that. I guess it is a really deep safety class, so we don't really have to worry about it right now. Dallin Bentley is a really interesting player. So is Nate Borkircher, but he is 25 years old. So I'll probably hold off on that. I might look to add another offensive lineman at this point because I'm not really loving any of the other players that I'm seeing here. Markel Bell, I'm not super interested in at the spot. Dante Corleone could be quite interesting, but at the same time, I'm not really looking to add a rotational nose tackle at number 98. I'm looking to get some true value here. So let's take a look at the interior of the offensive line. There could be a couple players that we could look for here at this spot. Maybe a long-term option at either guard or center could be interesting. Bo Stevens, to me, really speaks out as someone that I feel like could be a Philadelphia Eagle. Same thing with Billy Shrouth as well. These are just players that I don't really think I don't really think the value is truly there, to be quite honest with you. I think I'm going to trade out of this pick. I'm going to trade down a little bit here. And I think I'm going to, let's see what the Bucks are willing to offer at this point, because I'll just be quite honest with you guys. I'm not really in love with what I'm seeing here at this spot. Oh, that's a little bit too rich for their blood. I figured I would give it a shot. I mean, why not? So we do have 197. Let's see if we could add another pick here. So 116, 155, a future 5, and 229 to move down 18 or so spots. I feel like that's pretty solid. Yep, and we're going to do that. I just feel like I need this. I need the talent pool to clear out a little bit for me to kind of exactly know what I want. Caleb, interesting at this point too. There is a super athletic player that could really read on the defensive line behind some of these guys that they have. I do think this is a quite an interesting pick here. A little bit of an awkward player. Awkward tweener size, but I really think that he could be someone that could even start over Moro Ajomo along the defensive line. Proctor is quite interesting at this spot. I think I'm going to take him. I do think that Howie Roseman and the Eagles definitely do, value this type of, overall athleticism and size and pass rushing ability. He's a small school FBS FCS prospect. I'm going to take Caleb Proctor here with this pick at number 114. I think it makes a lot of sense along the defensive line, just adding more depth to the interior of the defensive line. He offers just some true excellent pass rushing ability. So what we've done so far, we've added Caden Proctor, Malachi Lawrence, Antonio Williams, and Caleb Proctor. So Caden and Caleb Proctor know, for what I know, there is no, you know, whatever. I don't even know what I'm trying to say at this point. It's super late and I'm recording this, so I do apologize if I'm rambling on quite a bit. But at 116 here, I would like to add either a linebacker or a safety at this point. I did see some interior offensive line players that I think could be worth it at this point. Bo Stevens is still here. I feel like this is some really good value along the, the interior, the offensive line. I feel like this is someone that I'm really willing to take at this point. Yeah, I think this is what I'm going to do. And then we're going to really start tackling, linebacker and maybe secondary at some point here. So right now, what we're going to do is we're going to take Bo Stevens to kind of continue to add to the depth along the offensive line. Stevens is a player that I really do think can develop into quite a nice left or right guard at the NFL level. Really athletic, super powerful, 6'5", 315 pounds. I kind of like what he can bring to the table. Charles Demings, pardon me, is quite interesting at this spot. Also need to add a tight end. This is where we might, if he's still on the board, we might take Dallin Bentley. And I think this is exactly what I'm going to do here. I think Bentley is actually a perfect sort of kind of prototype to what Dallas Goedert is long term. Bentley is just big. Oh my goodness, he's 25 years old. I didn't even realize that. All right, we're going to steer clear of that. I didn't even realize he was 25. That's kind of crazy. Tanner Koziel is quite interesting as well. Dallas Goedert was my comp for him, but he's also a player that I don't think is, a truly good inline blocker, and that's what I'm looking for. Eli Ratteren is actually probably would be actually really good in this spot, and I think that's the way that I'm going to go. Ratteren is 6'7", 250 pounds. Don't let this run blocking grade fool you. He's a very, very strong run blocker as well. Someone that just down the field has a ton of athleticism as well. Yeah, a lot of people are looking at him as limited receiving upside, but I just think that it was the Notre Dame offense as a whole that doesn't really utilize the tight end length they once did with like a Michael Mayer or, guys like that. So Ratteren is a player that I like quite a bit, and I think he makes a lot of sense long-term for the Eagles. So that's what we're going to go with here. I think Joe Royer is interesting as well, but Ratteren is the player that I think can be that true Dallas Goedert archetype that fits so well in this Philadelphia Eagles team. So at this point here, we're looking to add to the secondary at this point. I don't really think there's any other way that we can go at this point. I know that they don't really, at this point, you're going to get some good players here. There's a player, and here he is right here, that I think kind of fits exactly what we're looking for the Philadelphia Eagles quite well at this point. And that's going to be Jalen Husky. He's a player that I think is excellent in his own right. Let's just see if VJ Payne is still there. He is. That's actually the way that we're going to go. We're going to go with VJ Payne here. I just like the frame a little bit more and the tackling ability too. 6'3", 208 pounds, incredible size, speed combination. He could play in the box, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a replacement for Reed Blankenship, and VJ Payne overall with his tackling ability, his prowess as a coverage safety as well is excellent, and he could definitely bring the boom in the box as well. So that's what we're looking for here. VJ Payne is going to be the player that we take at 153. Now let's see if we could add a linebacker, man. I wish Dallin Bentley was like 2 years younger, because at 25 years old, that's really tough. Ooh. Caleb Elamzor is here. That's interesting. I think he'd be quite the addition to this defense. You did lose the third overall ranked pass rushing linebacker in the NFL when they lost Nakobe Dean. So that's something to take into consideration. Caleb Elamzor is kind of a jack of all trades, master of none, but very good at everything that he does. He was all Big 12, this past year as a linebacker. He was really exceptional for the TCU Horned Frogs. The whole linebacking core for the TCU Horned Frogs was actually exceptional for the most part. But Caleb Elamzor definitely stood out. Incredible run defender. Great missed tackle rate for an off-ball linebacker at 7.1%. You have to think to yourself, if he had 89 total tackles, how many tackle attempts? 99 tackle attempts. He missed 10 of them. I feel like that's a pretty solid rate for the most part considering. But I think those numbers are skewed. That has to do with assisted tackles as well too. So it's a little bit higher. The tackle attempts are a little bit higher than that. But Caleb Alamzor, I think, can do a lot for this Philadelphia Eagles, you know, linebacking core. I do think, they have Jahad Campbell, they have Zach Bond. I think that's fine, but I think to add to the linebacking core here would make a lot of sense. So Caleb Lambs or is going to be the player that I take at 155. I'd like to add a corner at the next spot as well. There's a couple players that I do think could be in line here. Oh, Julian Neal is still on the board at this point. And I feel like you kind of have to take him if he's still on the board. I don't know what he's doing on the board at 178. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about a 4.48 40-yard dash corner that's big, strong, physical, 6'2", 208 pounds. He was great at the NFL Combine as well. Don't know what he's really doing here. Don't know why he's fallen so far. But this does feel like a really, really classic Eagles pick at this point in the draft. You take that, that falling, quote unquote, college star, and he actually turns out to be really good. That was what I thought was going to happen with Keely Ringo, but it never did happen there. But yeah, Julian Neal is just an excellent corner all the way around. I'm kind of shocked that he's still here, and I'm not going to second guess. I'm going to take Julian Neal at 178, and that leaves us with a couple really nice depth selections here at 197 and 229. I'd probably take a quarterback at some point too. There's just so many good players that are on the board at this point. Nolan Rucci is quite interesting as well. I'd like to add another tackle, to be quite honest with you, maybe even another defensive lineman as well. I'd like to add a corner as well. I don't think I added one. Jaden Kennedy is quite interesting. He's a player that I think could be a really nice backup nickel corner to Cooper DeJean if they do want to, move DeJean around in sub packages and stuff like that. Kennedy is 5'11", 185 pounds, probably one of, if not the best true slot corners in this draft class as well. He's a player, 5'11", 185 pounds. Like I said, he's aggressive, he's feisty, he's strong at the line of scrimmage, and he also gave up the least amount of yards per catch in the FBS last year amongst qualified corners at 6.4 yards per reception given up. So Kennedy is going to be the player that I take here at number 197. And then 229, we'll see what else we could add. We'll just kind of see who else is on the board and, see kind of where it takes us. But I really do think I don't think this is a bells and whistles draft outside of a couple picks for the Philadelphia Eagles, but I think it's necessary, to be quite honest with you. I know people aren't going to like it, and that's absolutely fine, but I do think that we got some absolute dogs on both sides of the ball here for the Philadelphia Eagles. There's really not else much I could do at this point. Nick Barrett is a beast. Don't think he'll still be here at this point, so we're going to kind of we'll hold off on that. Let's take a look at the interior offensive line. Micah Morris is still here. I feel like I just draft him Caden Barnett is interesting. This guy is an absolute maniac. Super athletic as well, incredibly strong. He's also, I forget what the quote exactly was, but 6'5", 320 pounds, a mauling type of, run blocker, really excellent pass blocker as well from Wyoming. I feel like this is a very, very under the radar pick late in the draft for anyone. I'm not just even talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, but I think if you can get someone like a Caden Barrett later on the board, we know that Howie Roseman is going to be absolutely fiending to add to this offensive line. I think you get, with the picks that I've already made with Bo Stevens and Caden Proctor, you're just getting younger and more aggressive on the offensive line as well. And I do think, a couple of backup guards would do very, very well with the ability to develop into starters. So Caden Barnett, is going to be the last pick of this mock draft here at number 229. And I'm glad that we added that last pick with that trade back there. So yeah, I wanted to thin out the talent pool a little bit more just to kind of see. I wasn't in love with really any of the prospects and the fit at those points there, but I do feel like this was a very meat and potatoes draft for the Philadelphia Eagles. But again, I do think it was quite necessary. So let's take a look at the grades, of course, like we usually do. Caden Proctor at number 27, at number 23. At number 54, we took Malachi Lawrence. At 68, we took Antonio Williams. 114 after a trade down, we took Caleb Proctor. We traded 98, and we got 116, 155, 229, and a fifth-round pick next year. Bo Stevens was the pick at 116. Eli Radarun was the pick at number 137. At 153, we took BJ Payne. Caleb Lambs, or was the selection at number 155. Julian Neal at 178, great value there. Jaden Kennedy, and I didn't even realize that I took two corners back to back, so that's quite interesting there. Was the selection. Also can play safety, so I wanted to, kind of, I guess, justify that pick in a way. Jaden Kennedy at 197, and then we finished it off at 229 with Caden Barnett.